Hey everybody, welcome to Clin Trial Talk. My name is Tiffany and today we're going to talk about the Form FDA 1572. Form FDA 1572 is a regulatory document that's required to be completed by the principal investigator of a clinical trial. It's for phase 1, 2, and 3 studies. Phase 4 studies do not require a 1572. And basically, a 1572 is a document that, like I said, has to be signed by principal investigators for clinical research. It's a contractual agreement between the FDA and the principal investigator when it comes to how a clinical trial should be conducted at their site. So principal investigators have certain codes of federal regulations that they have to follow in order to participate in clinical trials. And that's what the commitments are. And the commitments can be found on the back, page 2 of the 1572, right before the signature line. It is considered an essential document. Essential documents are documents that are needed for the pharmaceutical company or the CRO to send out the investigational product for the study. So part of the essential documents are the FDA Form 1572, the protocol signature page, investigator signature page. They need financial disclosures from all of the doctors that are choosing or volunteering to be investigators for the study. And also the essential documents are IRB approvals, things like that. So the 1572 is filed in the regulatory binder at the site. The original is sent in-house to the sponsor team. The CRO and the sponsor have their own trial master file where regulatory documents have to be filed on their behalf. So there's two regulatory document files. There's the trial master file at the site sponsor level, and then there's the investigator site file at the site level. So when you're monitoring or when you're a study coordinator and you're completing the 1572, just know that that is where it's filed. The most important section of the FDA Form 1572 is box 9 because it lists all the commitments that the principal investigator must adhere to. So I'm actually going to record my screen and go over that document. Let's talk about this document. So this document, I literally just went to Google, put in a search for Form FDA 1572, okay, because that's how it's titled. And this is a document that comes from the Department of Health and Human Services, FDA. It's a statement of investigator. So as you can see that there's an expiration date on this form. This one expires March 31st, 2022. Like I mentioned before, it does have the name and address of the investigator, of the clinical investigator, where the doctor can be found. Okay. Box 2 is the education, training, and experience that qualify that investigator as an expert in the clinical investigation of the drug for the use under investigation. So typically, pharmaceutical companies and CROs have an obligation to make sure that the doctors and the investigators that they're selecting for, so here's how it works. If you're MD, DO, whatever it is, you are an investigator. If you are the person that is performing the study-related procedures like vital signs, EKGs, lab draws, typically you will be titled the study coordinator, and patients who are being considered for the study that actually enroll into a study are considered subjects. Okay, so investigator in this sense is typically going to be someone with an MD or a DO. Okay. Then you have box 3, which is the name and address of any medical school, hospital, or other research facility where the clinical investigation is going to be conducted. So this is where the patients will actually be seen, which is separate from where the investigator may be. Or these addresses could be exactly the same. A lot of principal investigators or just physicians in general usually have different appointments and different obligations. So some doctors may have a private practice to where that's what they do 50% of the time, and then the other 50% of the time they may do research, or they may have hospital assignments or other hospital obligations to where they won't actually be at that physical location all the time. So with that being said, the FDA wants to know where can they reach the doctor, and they also want to know where the patients will be seen. Okay, box 4, name and address of any clinical laboratory facilities to be used in the study. So while a pharmaceutical company is developing a clinical trial, they have to choose different vendors for certain tasks. So one of the vendors that they have to choose are the laboratory, and the institutional review board. And the institutional review board, so the clinical laboratory is the laboratory that's assigned to a clinical trial that processes and handles all of the lab work, any blood draws, urine samples, blood samples, the testing of the actual sample that is being collected. So that is sent out from the research site after the samples have been collected, and it's shipped via UPS or FedEx or something like that, usually on dry ice, or even processing, metabolizing information when it comes to PK samples, which are pharmacokinetic samples. Then you have box 5, which is the name and address of the institutional review board that is responsible for review of this and approval of the study or studies, because there are multiple studies within each phase. So preclinical, there's a number of studies. Phase 1, there's a number of studies. Phase 2, same thing, certain number of studies. I don't know exactly how many there are, but it depends on what it is they're trying to investigate and what information that they need to collect. I'm not a physician. I'm not a, not even, I mean, I'm not really a trained medical professional. I have a bachelor's degree, so there's only so much that I'm going to be able to pick up and understand. But when it comes to being a general, like a clinical research professional in general, that's really all you need to know. So the IRB is the Institutional Review Board, and the Institutional Review Board is a third party that actually approves the principal investigator and the research site, or excuse me, the principal investigator to conduct the study at their site. The IRB not only approves the investigator, but they also approve the research protocol. They approve the informed consents. They approve any advertising that's given to any subjects. And they approve anything that's, like I said, they're like the protection group between the pharmaceutical company, CRO, and the patient. So anything that's given to a patient or given to a potential study subject, it has to have an IRB approval stamp or a version date or some type of approval, either whether it's on the letter or on the document itself. Okay, names of sub-investigators. So sub-investigators are the backup investigators for the principal investigator. So the principal investigator may be sick, out of the office, unavailable for the visit. So in order for that study to still continue and not 100% rely on the principal investigator at times, and sub-investigators basically have the same duties and obligations as the principal investigator, but they are backup. They don't lead the study like the principal investigator does. The principal investigator is ultimately responsible for the conduct of the trial, but they do have the right to delegate certain responsibilities to certain study team members. And so the FDA and all the sponsors and CROs are aware of the fact that, principal investigators need backup sometimes. So because of that, they have to list here. Then in box 7, you have the title of the study. Okay. Then box 8 is going to be, like I said before, for phase 1 investigations, which is the general outline of the planned investigation, including the estimated duration and maximum number of subjects that will be involved. And then there's box 2, which is for phase 2 and 3. I'm going to do another video on the different phases, so be sure to check that out. Then you have box 9, which is the commitments, and this is the real contractual agreement between the principal investigator and the FDA. Okay, so basically, the principal investigator agrees to study. The principal investigator agrees to conduct the study in accordance with relevant current protocol and will only make changes in the protocol after notifying the sponsor, except when necessary to protect safety, rights, or welfare of subjects. Okay, the principal investigator personally agrees to conduct or supervise the described investigation. They agreed to inform any patients of any persons used as controls that the drugs are being used for investigational purposes, and will ensure that the requirements relating to obtaining informed consent in 21 CFR Part 50 and IRB review in 21 CFR Part 56 are met. Okay, I'm not gonna read all of this, but I am gonna do a separate video on all these different codes of federal regulations that the principal investigator has to adhere to. Okay, again, like I said, you can go to Google and just search Form FDA 1572. It's a PDF and it'll pop right up. So here is the signature section. Box 10 is the date, signature of the investigator, which is where they're signed, and that's it. That is the Form FDA 1572, a very important, essential regulatory document for U.S. clinical investigations. Okay, so that's it. That's the Form FDA 1572. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and put them in the comment box. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel and hit that little bell if you want to be notified of any videos that I post. You can email me. My email address is Tiffany, Tiffany, @clintrialtalk.com. That's clintrialtalk, CLINTRIALTALK.com. Thanks. Bye.